Hello, this is Mark Silverman, managing member and founder of Silverman & Associates, and I'm also a certified financial planner professional. I want to welcome you to the Saving with Silverman podcast. I'm glad you're here. Each week, we'll discuss different financial planning topics because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
Welcome to Saving with Silverman. I'm Ron Stutz, along with Mark Silverman of Silverman & Associates in Tucson, serving all of Southern Arizona, wherever you are. And Mark, first of all, it is awfully good to be back with you today.
Ron, always happy to be here.
Well, we have a lot of interesting topics to talk about today. First of all, let me put your phone number out there so folks can get in touch with you. If you're a regular listener to the show, you probably have this ingrained in your brain. If you're not, well, then it'll come because it's so important, and we give this phone number a lot. Call or text 520-333-7601. That is 520-333-7601. That'll put you in touch with Mark's office, and you can arrange a no obligation, no cost conversation with Mark Silverman. He's willing to set aside some time to sit down and talk with you, and certainly it is a good offer that you really need to take advantage of. But let's talk about kids and retirement planning today. I think this is going to be a really interesting topic. If you have kids, more often than not, they usually come up in the discussion when you're talking about your retirement plans. For some people, it's very important to leave a legacy as well later on in life. But let's talk about some of the ways that the children of your clients sometimes end up being a big part of the discussion. First of all, how about when you're talking about college expenses? I would imagine that's a big part of your conversation as well.
It is. If you still, for our clients that still have kids, younger kids that we're planning for college, obviously looking at those sorts of things and trying to project. Obviously there's lots of scholarships and things like that out there, or get loans, student loans, et cetera, like they maybe had to do for themselves. But in some cases, they want to pay for those things. And, we're looking at probably about $50,000 per year right now for college. So for your college, that's about $200,000. So if you have a couple kids, that could add up very quickly. So, figuring out what the strategy is there, hopefully you've started saving, whether you have education IRAs or 529s, et cetera, those sorts of things that you have money in. That can help. But if not, you may be self-paying or maybe looking at a type of scholarship or loans. But, just figuring out what those costs might look like, and also it depends a lot on where you're going to go to school. Are you going to be in-state? I went to U of A in-state, so that was a little bit cheaper than if had I gone out of state for certain. So, just look at those kind of options.
Well, when you're talking to retirees and pre-retirees about their kids, oftentimes I would imagine a conversation comes up about trouble with the job market. Sometimes that does happen these days.
Yeah, it is just because, and Tucson's probably one of those areas, Ron, there's not a lot of industries here. So unfortunately, a lot of people that go to school here, whether they come from out of state or stay here and go to school, there's just not a lot of jobs here. I struggled with that going to school here. I ended up working. I knew what I was going to do. I was going to stay in this business that I'm in at a college. But a lot of my friends who had graduated, there just wasn't the industries and jobs available here in Tucson. So for those sorts of opportunities, it's getting a little bit better here. We've had some more companies move in, but we're still not where we need to be. So a lot of our talent does leave the area. So, understanding that and knowing the kids may need to move away to find the job that they're looking for or to make the money that they're looking for.
Mark, I know that a lot of times when you're having this conversation with your clients, grandchildren come up in the conversation, and that is so important to folks. And tell us how that figures into the conversation.
It figures in a couple different ways, and I'm not here to pass judgment on what you should do with how you should handle the money with your grandkids. There's some that want to give their grandkids money. There's some that don't. And I agree with both sides. I can certainly relate to both sides as well. But there are people that want to be able to pass money on, maybe to pay for college, like we just talked about, for their grandkids, or maybe pay for a family vacation that everybody gets together and does a cruise or some type of trip. So, planning for those sorts of things, but it's part of the discussion. Again, I'm not saying that, if you have grandkids, you should be, giving all your money to them. But if you do, it's part of the equation. And what's the best way to do it in order to fund, if you wanted to give them money for college, pay for something, maybe give them a down payment for a first house, or, certainly just maybe pass money on to them after you've passed away as well. So it just depends on what you're looking at doing.
You're listening to Saving with Silverman with the one and only Mark Silverman. And if you'd like to check out Mark's website, it's savingwithsilverman.com. That is savingwithsilverman.com. We're talking about kids or grandkids and retirement planning. And Mark has conversations with a lot of his folks all the time. And sometimes when it comes to kids or grandkids, there are some with some kind of special needs. And that presents some real challenges, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that's really where estate planning comes in, having special needs trusts and those sorts of things so that the money can be managed properly and the children or grandchildren, whoever it might be, with the special needs can be taken care of appropriately. So, those create certain challenges, but there's certainly workarounds with that as far as making sure that you have a special needs trust in place and that everything's set up the correct way so that those people are taken care of in the right way.
We talk so often about how leaving a legacy is something that is just absolutely essential for some folks, and other folks, it's not so much. It's not that important to them. But what about generational wealth? Tell us about some of the conversations you have as far as that's concerned.
Sure, Ron. Well, there's the two camps, kind of like you just mentioned. Some people's perfect estate plan is to have their last two checks bounce. They made their money, they want to spend it and spend it all. If there's anything left over, great. If there's not, no problem either. And I certainly agree with that. But there's some that want to, create a legacy or pass money on to kids or grandkids, or maybe certain charities and places, religious organizations that they feel strongly about. And so it's making sure that the estate plan is done and the paperwork's done and everything's set up according to what your wishes are, so those dreams and those aspirations can be carried out.
All right. Well, I know that you have all kinds of different conversations with your clients about all of these things, whether to leave money to the kids or the grandkids and all of the special aspects of those conversations that come up. There are folks out there right now who have questions, specific questions about, how to set things up for their children or grandchildren, and would like to have a conversation with you in your office, sit down face to face and talk about all of these things. What do you have to offer them when they make that phone call and arrange a time to come in and talk with you?
Sure. So whether you're a first-time listener to the show or if you've heard me for a long time, if anything I've said makes sense or resonates with you, this is now your opportunity to come in and have a conversation with me in my office to go through this process we call the financial physical. And I can assure you, I will not be trying to sell you investment or insurance products. I repeat, this is not a sales meeting. Rather, we will discuss your values and goals in a way, honestly, you probably never have. This consultation is designed for both individuals as well as couples. However, if you are married, it is mandatory that both spouses attend this initial meeting. So whether you're still working or already retired, this is a great opportunity to see what it looks like to work with someone who's actually required to have a fiduciary responsibility to look out for your best interest at all times. As part of the financial physical, we will discuss your cash reserves, debt if you have any, insurance, all types, and how to best allocate your assets. And we'll even benchmark where you are now financially compared to where you want to be, so you have an even better perspective of what's required to achieve your goals for the reasons that are important to you. This becomes the foundation for developing a plan that gives you the highest probability of making that happen. This meeting will be valuable to you whether or not we decide to work together. There is no cost or obligation for this initial appointment. However, it is best suited for people who have saved at least $250,000. And as you probably are aware, I am a certified financial planner professional, and I believe the only one locally here on the radio in Tucson. And the going hourly rate to meet with a CFP such as myself can cost as much as $300 an hour. So this is a tremendous value and chance to finally get your financial house in order and keep it that way. And your only commitment is an hour or so of your time. We try our best to help everyone, however our slots fill up quickly. So I can only guarantee a complimentary meeting to the next 5 people that contact us right now. Please don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
520-333-7601. And as we say so many times, you can call or text that number, 520-333-7601. Come in to get the financial physical, just like you go to the doctor to check on your own health. Why not work on the health of your portfolio to find out where you are financially? The financial physical is available through Mark Silverman at Silverman & Associates. And again, that number is 520-333-7601. Call or text. I'm Ron Stutz along with Mark Silverman, and we'll be back with more coming up in just a moment.
You finished school and worked hard to get your first job. You told yourself you'd save for retirement. But that old jalopy you bought when you were 16 broke down, so you bought a new one. You started to save, and soon you bought your first home. Then came pets, kids, and your world changed some more. You worked hard to provide for your family. You made sure your kids got a good education. You might be sending them to school right now. Or maybe it's the grandkids' turn. And of course, you're now making sure your parents are looked after. Through the years you lovingly sacrificed for your family, now it's time to take care of you. Love others well by taking care of yourself. Keep listening to Saving with Silverman to discover how to build a financial plan that'll continue providing for you and the ones you love for years to come.
You're listening to Saving with Silverman with Mark Silverman of Silverman and Associates. And if you want to check out Mark's website, here it is, savingwithsilverman.com. That is savingwithsilverman.com. You'll find a lot of information there that will help you think in terms of getting your financial plans in order. Mark Silverman, of course, can help you put together a plan. So the best thing to do is just call the number I'm about to give you and then arrange a time to come in and have a conversation. No obligation, no cost. 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601. Again, you can call or text to make that happen. Mark, let's play a little game here of fill in the blank. I'll start the sentence, you fill in the blank, and then expound on that. The blank can be a single word or an entire thought, so just tell us how you think it should go. You ready to go?
Let's do it.
The number one on my list here, the best way to be sure you don't run out of money in retirement is to blank.
Hire a CFP to put together a comprehensive financial plan for you.
That's good. I like that.
I mean, that's the only way to do it. If you're meeting with somebody and all they're doing is giving you a spreadsheet or a sales marketing piece on, buy this annuity, it's going to give you this income forever and you're going to be set, that's not going to help you. Or if they're selling you a bunch of mutual funds, that's not going to help you. You need somebody that's going to put in the time and the effort to look at all the different pieces of your financial puzzle to put together a comprehensive financial plan for you.
Yeah, when Mark says CFP, he means Certified Financial Planner. Of course, Mark is a Certified Financial Planner professional, the founder and the managing member of Silverman and Associates. The next item on the fill-in-the-blank list here is the stock market has the ability to blank.
Go up and go down. Unfortunately, a lot of people just feel lately that it just goes up. When I say lately, I mean since 2009. I know since February we've seen a lot of volatility. But if you look at a historical chart, looks like it just goes straight up. But the markets can go up and the markets can go down, and they will, and that's normal.
All right. Now, next is if your advisor tells you blank, you ought to run the other way.
That's a good one. There's lots of things that I could fill in the blank with that one. I would say you're not paying any fees. If they have you thinking that there's no risk, any of those sorts of things are always things that I would explore further. But anytime anybody's doing a job and they're doing it, if you think they're doing it for free or you think that your investment doesn't involve risk, even if you're buying bonds, there's risk in everything. You just have to understand what the risks are. Obviously, the risks are greater in certain things more so than others, but you need to understand what the risks are. And I just want to touch on the fact that you said CFPs. There's several of us here in Tucson. Unfortunately, I believe I'm the only one that's on the radio. So if, I would seek out a CFP if you're really looking at financial planning, which I think everybody should have a financial plan.
Now, I would add to something you said a moment ago. If your advisor tells you you're going to get rich with this variable annuity, maybe you should run the other way.
Yeah, if you're going to get rich with any annuity, you should run the other way. Annuities aren't designed to make you rich, whether it be variable or fixed. That's just not how they're designed.
Number 4 on the list of our fill-in-the-blank game here. When somebody comes to visit you for the very first time, they're more likely to be worried about blank.
I'd say lots of things, but I'd say the number one thing is running out of money. Mm-hmm. What we call having more life than money. So your life lasts longer than your money does.
Yeah, people living longer these days, basically. But if you don't have a plan, there's a good chance that it could happen to you. And Mark can help you put together a plan so that you can be assured. You don't have to lie awake at night wondering if you're going to outlive your money. And nobody wants to run out of money in the last years of your life. That's a big fear for everybody. The most common mistake that you see retirees and pre-retirees making is blank.
I would say either spending too much or not saving enough.
And finally, let me ask you to fill in the blank here. The most gratifying part of your job, Mark Silverman, is blank.
Having people achieve their goals with my help.
I know it makes you feel good when you can look in the mirror and think, I really helped these people today. I gave them peace of mind, and I'm going to make their life better. That must be awfully gratifying.
That's really why I got into this business, Ron. That it's really about helping people, and whatever shape or form that looks like, it's different for different people, but really helping them, answering their questions, making sure that they're making the right financial decisions, not just for them, but for their families, because everybody's impacted based on the decisions they make, and it's guiding them and helping them make the best decision they could possibly make along the way.
Well, I threw some pretty crazy stuff at you there, so good job on this fill in the blank game here. But if there are folks out there who have blanks that they'd like for you to fill in for them, and they want to come in and sit down and have a face-to-face conversation with you, what happens when they come in?
Well, just like you get a second opinion on your health, why wouldn't you get a second opinion on your wealth? So whether you're a do-it-yourselfer or already working with someone, this is now your chance to go through this process that we call the financial physical. Do you know what your investments are costing you? If you're still working, are you on track to have the type of retirement you've always envisioned? Or if you're already retired, do you know if you or your spouse are at risk of running out of money while trying to maintain your current lifestyle? Well, I can assure you I will not be trying to sell you investment or insurance products. I repeat, this is not a sales meeting. In this initial meeting, we'll address issues of importance to you, provide an overall view of your situation, and give you general advice on what needs to be completed. This consultation is designed for both individuals as well as couples. However, if you are married, it is mandatory that both spouses attend this initial meeting. So whether you're still working or already retired, this is a great opportunity to see what it looks like to work with someone who is actually required to have a fiduciary responsibility to look out for your best interest at all times. This meeting will be valuable to you whether or not we decide to work together. There is no cost or obligation for this initial appointment. However, it is best suited for people who've saved at least $250,000. And as you probably are aware, I am a certified financial planner professional, and I believe the only one locally here on the radio in Tucson. And the going hourly rate to meet with a CFP such as myself can cost as much as $300 an hour. So this is a tremendous value and chance to finally get your financial house in order and keep it that way. And your only commitment is an hour or so of your time. Just as you want to reach a healthy life from a physical standpoint, you also want to reach and maintain great financial health. So our financial physical is just what the doctor ordered. We try our best to help everyone, however our slots fill up quickly. So I can only guarantee a complimentary meeting for the next 5 people that contact us right now. Please don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
Place a call to Mark's number right now, 520-333-7601. You can call or text 520-333-7601. All you got to do is leave your contact information. You don't need to talk to anybody today. Don't need to have any numbers in front of you. You don't even need your calendar in front of you right now. But just go ahead and call. Don't procrastinate while you're thinking about it. 520-333-7601. Again, call or text. Of course, if you're texting, make sure you include your first and last name. Mark Silverman, Silverman and Associates in Tucson. We'll have more coming up on today's show. In fact, the request line. We have some great questions on the way. Next on Saving with Silverman.
Learn the path to a worry-free retirement. Keep listening to Saving with Silverman.
You're listening to Saving with Silverman. I'm Ron Stutz, along with Mark Silverman at Silverman and Associates. Mark's office is in Tucson, and he has folks come in from all over southern Arizona and have conversations about their financial matters. Mark can help you prepare for retirement. That's what this show is all about, to make sure you don't run out of money, to make sure you can live the kind of lifestyle in your retirement years that you've always wanted to during all your working years. It's time to relax and make sure that you can have that happen without stressing out about outliving your money. 520-333-7601. That is 520-333-7601. Call or text. That's all you got to do, 520-333-7601. And I mentioned earlier that we had some great questions that have come in on the request line. Jimmy in Vail says, Mark, I've heard you talk about having an emergency fund, but I'm having trouble determining how much I ought to have in mine and where I should invest it. I'm also not exactly sure how to define an emergency so that I know when I can dip into it. What's your advice about all those questions?
Well, sure, Jimmy. And we've had this question several times. It's an excellent question. As a certified financial planner, we tell our clients they need to have 3 to 6 months worth of expenses liquid at all times. So let's say your expenses are $5,000 a month. you should have somewhere between $15,000 to $30,000 liquid at all times. So a minimum of $15,000 in that case. For our retired clients, we actually err on the more conservative side. So in some cases, we'll even go 12 months worth of expenses. So in that example, it would be $60,000 should be liquid. Any more than that, then you're losing that money to inflation. You're losing purchasing power by keeping it in cash. But you want to keep it in different areas. It could be a money market, a checking, savings, anything you can get into without any fees or penalties to get to, something you get to quickly. It also could be, if you have a home equity line, that also could be used for expenses as long as they don't cut your line, which we've seen people with that happen in the last couple of years. Sometimes the mortgage companies are doing that, the banks. But making sure that you have that liquidity. And remember, the purpose of the liquidity is for emergency. So let's say your air conditioning breaks, and let's say it's $10,000. And you have $15,000 in there. So once that $10,000 comes out to pay for that, you need to replenish that $10,000 back into the emergency funds. But great question. That's my advice.
All right. Well, thanks very much. And our next question here comes from Bill in Marana. Bill says, what happens to the money in my 401k after I retire? Do I have to roll it over to a different account, or can I just leave it there?
Well, Bill, another great question. You can do either. You could leave it there or you could roll it over. But my advice is to roll it over. If you leave it there, the problem is you're limited on the investment choices that the 401k has offered. So you may have 10 or 15 different mutual fund choices. The other thing is you're still tied to the restrictions that the 401k plan offers, as well as you can't always get access to the money at all times. A lot of times they do have restrictions when you can take the money out, depending on where it is, specific 401ks, et cetera, and you're limited to your choices. The other problem is the fees. There's a lot of hidden fees and expenses in 401ks, and you can't even get a number on what those are. But if you just Google, 401k hidden fees and expenses, there's lots of articles there for you to read. The benefit of rolling it over to a self-directed IRA is you can control the fees. You can control where it goes. You can roll it over to another firm. If you already have an IRA somewhere else, you can roll it over to a Vanguard, TD Ameritrade, one of those places. The other thing is you're not limited on your investment choices, so you can do anything you want with it. You can do stocks, bonds, ETFs, mutual funds, etc. And you can control the fees a lot better. It's a lot easier to access as well, a lot more user-friendly, as we like to call it. But great question.
Well, thanks to Bill and Marana for that question. And our next question here comes from Lisa in Green Valley. Lisa says, Mark, I listen to your show all the time, and I need some help. My divorce will be final in about a month. I always paid the bills, but I was never really involved with the long-term financial planning during our marriage. Where's a good place for me to start now that I'm on my own?
Well, Lisa, I want to thank you for being a longtime listener, and I'm sorry for the recent divorce that you're having to go through, whether you're the one that wanted it or not. I know it's tough on both sides, so I do understand that. But regarding your question, if you had been working with an advisor previously when you were married, maybe your ex is working with that advisor, you should not be working with that same advisor. It's actually a conflict of interest. So my advice is to seek out another advisor. Preferably a CFP is what I would go with. And since your situation's now changed, you need a new financial plan, whether you had one or not before. If you did or you didn't, you still need a new one, even if you had one before. And making sure that, looking at your income, looking at your expenses, looking at your investments, the risk, and making sure that you're going to be okay, and making sure your plan's solid, and, having some do that plan for you to give you the right type of advice. We're happy to be part of that equation if you want to reach out to us. Again, I'm sorry for what you're going through, but my advice is to seek another advisor that's going to look out for your best interest, that can put a financial plan for you.
Well, it sounds like Lisa might have a lot of questions, and she might want to call you and set up a time to come in and have a conversation. And the same goes for our other questioners today, Jimmy and Bill, and anybody else out there listening today. I know that you sit down and talk with folks and kind of lay it all out, Mark, and you'd arrange to have a certain amount of time, and you are willing to do this with no obligation, no cost at all. So what happens when they come into Silverman Associates and have that conversation with you?
Sure. Well, let me just say this, Ron. We've had some great questions this week. I want to thank everybody for asking those questions. But if you have questions, you can go to our website, which is savingwithsilverman.com, click on the media tab. And if you scroll down, there's a place to submit your question, and there's a good chance you'll get to hear it here on the air. But now's my chance to ask you a simple question, and can you answer it honestly and objectively as possible? Aside from the happy hellos and how's the family, and aside from the occasional lunch or golf game, I mean, I get it. I'm as much friends with so many of my clients, they become true friends over the many years. But I think the question has to be asked, especially in light of the stakes. Is your current financial advisor truly adding value beyond a doubt? And I'll repeat, Is your current financial advisor truly adding value? It's a valid question, as a friendship or just relationship allows you not to be in a position to ask those critical questions. Are you talking about taxes? Are you talking about Social Security and income and risk and diversification and insurance and estate planning and healthcare? Are you having those annual reviews, but hopefully it's more frequently than that? Is there detailed follow-up? Is there accountability? If you are, if all of that is happening, congratulations, because you've got a great relationship, and send your financial advisor a thank you. But if you're not having that, if you're not feeling the value, if you're not having these in-depth conversations, then you owe it to yourself and really to your family to have a conversation with someone else, because if you don't, you're the one that's going to suffer. You're the one that's going to pay the cost, and it'll cost you in more ways than you'll ever know. Let us prove to you how we can help your money go further in retirement. Let us show you with our financial physical. I believe you'll be surprised at what you'll learn, and this won't cost you anything. Give us a call or send us a text to 520-333-7601, 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601, or check us out online at savingwithsilverman.com. That's savingwithsilverman.com. Please don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
Again, that number is 520-333-7601, and you can call or text if you prefer to do that. 520-333-7601, 520-333-7601. There's no obligation. It's not going to cost you a thing, so come in for a conversation with the one and only Mark Silverman, certified financial planning professional, the founder and the managing member of Silverman and Associates in Tucson. And Mark, it's been a pleasure being with you today.
Ron, always happy to be here. Thank you.
Join us again next week for the next edition of Saving with Silverman.
Silverman & Associates Wealth Management, LLC is a registered investment advisor. Information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities product, service, or investment strategy. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Be sure to first consult with a qualified advisor, tax professional, or attorney before implementing any strategy or recommendation discussed herein.